That I'm not used to having law enforcement see a crime happen right in front of their faces and then say, never mind, we'll just go about our business. In fact, why don't you go ahead and come on in? Come on in. We gonna do this for anybody that considers themselves to be a Christian. They should care about treating people in a humane way.
Burning holes to a lot of chests.
And they should also care.
Hey everybody, this is Dean FM, Dean Milford here for your creature comfort. And today I wanted to do another reaction video. This one's going to be by Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. We're going to be reacting to Representative Jasmine Crockett's opening remarks while ICE runs wild. Trump's DOJ targets Congress. Yeah, it's doing the absolute most. Been a lot of people who recently in the news have been held by ICE for no reason, and providly so. A lot of them are released because the court's like, no, we can't hold these people. Obviously, there's been a lot of people who have been deported. The Trump administration has been ordered to send a lot of these people back from where they've been deported to, and they're not doing that. We gotta hear what Jasmine Crockett has to say. Miss Jasmine Crockett, we featured her a lot. Let's get right into it. Please make sure to check out all my stuff. It's in the link down below.
I have my prepared remarks, and we're gonna get to them at some point. But there was a lot that was said, including the fact that Delaney Hall is something that was opened up under Obama, and seemingly the mayor at the time did not have issues with Delaney Hall. I can tell you that there was a point in time in which Alcatraz was open as well, and there seemingly weren't any issues.
You know, saw a movie, and that was his inspiration for
what. As the mayor of any city, I want to be clear that there is a duty, and that duty is to make sure that any and every building that is opened in that city is up to code. So just because something may have been up to code in 2008 doesn't mean that in 2025 that it was up to code. And there are those that should respect the authority of the city in which they are operating in. And somehow,
a lot of archaic
during the
movements
later hours of last night, we saw that while the mayor had been unlawfully charged, those charges ended up being dropped.
Yep.
The mayor of the largest city in the state of New Jersey was charged with criminal trespass. Now, we have video footage, and I'm not going to play it, but we have video footage of literally them opening the gate and then asking him to leave, and then he left.
Yep.
Therefore, there is no criminal trespass, but the reason that I bring it up, this entire situation could have been avoided if people just would know their jobs and actually do their jobs. Because the entire chaos that ensued, it ensued because of the unlawful detainment and arrest of the mayor in the first place. But let me get to my actual remarks. The Republicans have called today's hearing for one purpose: to help an administration that's already rooted in lawlessness and corruption execute their dangerous assault on American democracy. So in today's hearing, you'll hear them admonish their own congressional colleagues and excuse the behavior of the out-of-control, corrupt Trump administration. They're going to try to convince you that they're here to protect law and order and the rule of law. But they won't mention how the Trump administration is openly defying many of the 162 court rulings that have paused his illegal executive orders. They won't talk about how the president has called for the impeachment of judges who rule against him, or how they're allowing ICE agents to raid churches and elementary schools. They won't talk about how this administration is preparing to give $5 million to the family of Ashley Babbitt, who participated in said insurrection. Because they don't actually care about law and order and the rule of law.
They want to lynch people.
They're here today for one reason: to forfeit their constitutional oversight responsibilities. But since I decided to bring up January 6th, let me run a tape to remind y'all of the difference of congressional oversight versus criminals.
That was a scary day. That went on forever, too. I was like, yep, there's the peaceful. That's some peaceful.
An oversight visit, which we had the power to do as congressional members.
Yeah. Come on.
Statutory authority, and so that is what we're here for, and we're waiting for the supervisor to let us in here because.
I don't even. Oh, it's even. Every time I see it, it's like worse and worse.
Stand up on there. We will be your eyes and your ears. And we will report to you, Mayor.
Those are the real ones in Congress, I'll tell you that.
It's interesting that one set of behavior somehow is going to get a family rich overnight.
Yeah.
And the other folk The other folk that were there in that
So for
video,
the high heaven, the high
members
hell.
of Congress, well, they're saying arrest them. Let me remind you that those January 6ers have been pardoned. Let me remind you that yet another January 6er was just arrested a few days ago for committing
abuse,
what?
right?
Another crime. So if we're going to talk about us
A lot of
keeping
them are
our
like
streets
sexual
safe,
abuses too. I heard
let's
like
be
they've been-
real
they've been
about
like-
who's causing crimes, who actually went through what we call due process, because no one
Proud
denied
Boys, right?
the
Isn't that who
January
broke
6th insurrectionists of their due process. They went to court. They either pled guilty or were found guilty, and they were sent to prison. And half of them, actually all of them, if their sentences said so, should still be in prison.
Yep.
Because we, as
All of them,
Americans,
in my
would be
opinion.
safer. We won't get into the fact that another one was already in trouble because they had already killed somebody.
Horrifying people.
But I'll continue on. Right now, our Republican colleagues want to forfeit their constitutional oversight responsibilities. Let's talk about what's actually
Don't let them
happening.
do it.
In March, we learned that the Trump administration was dismantling the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties and terminating staff at the Office of the Citizenship and Immigration Services Ombudsman.
Yep.
And in the Office of
care about
Immigration
none of that.
Detention Ombudsman, because they argue, quote, these offices have obstructed immigration enforcement and, quote,
Where?
undermined DHS's
Where?
mission. The Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties investigates public complaints about possible violations of civil rights and civil liberties in DHS activities, including immigration enforcement and discrimination.
Nothing's been blocked. They don't
And in the
deport people and
immigration
they
detention
even have to bring them back.
ombudsman's it is their primary responsibility to conduct oversight on conditions at immigration detention centers.
Yeah.
So why would the Trump
supposed to
administration
be there.
want to dismantle
Y'all
offices
dumb.
tasked with conducting oversight of immigration enforcement and
Brutal.
detention facilities? The simple answer is, without them, there will be no internal oversight offices to assess the legality of the Trump administration's policies on immigration enforcement. So what have the results been?
They wanted to-
Since
they
Trump
wanted
took
to silence
office
the
in
defectors,
January,
right? They
on
wanted-
January 20th, 9
the
detainees
defectors,
have
yeah.
died in ICE custody.
Opposition.
In fact,
Yeah.
in Trump's
they-
first
heard about
month
that.
in office, more detainees died in ICE custody than at any time since fiscal year 2020. Congressional Democrats have engaged in oversight activities of immigration
Why they
facilities
died?
across the country, from Florida,
Must not be being fair.
where a 44-year-old Haitian woman died in ICE custody, to Newark, New Jersey, where
Not in
3
ICE
of our
custody.
Democratic colleagues visited an immigration detention facility to ensure the humane treatment of detainees.
Ridiculous. This is like
This wasn't about going in and breaking nobody out, y'all. Especially when there were cameras
they
rolling
just really
everywhere.
don't like colored people. I think
That's
it's-
not what they were there to do.
God, oh, jeez.
Now, in a breathtaking act of executive obstruction of congressional oversight
Tell it.
and the unprecedented weaponization of the Department of Justice, we have an interim U.S. attorney for New Jersey who for years has argued in court that Donald Trump is above the law. She has announced criminal charges against Congresswoman McIver for, quote, impeding and interfering with law enforcement. However, our power as members of Congress to conduct oversight is found in the Constitution and federal law. In fact, federal law explicitly prohibits DHS from, quote, preventing a member of Congress from entering for the purpose of conducting oversight any facility operated by
Need to be
or
shut down.
for the Department of Homeland Security
ICE detention,
used
right.
to detain or otherwise house aliens
Are they
or to make any temporary modification at any such facility that in any
Are they
way
held to the
alters
same standards
what
as
is
prison?
observed
Probably not.
by a
Probably not,
visiting
by a long
member of Congress. It is against the law. Full stop.
Yeah.
Separately, the court has consistently
This is the
held that the
50th law?
speech and debate
50th law
clause of the
ever?
Constitution protects individual members from prosecution for legislative acts, including, quote, fact-finding, field investigations, and information gathering.
They're supposed to be there. That's their
job.
job.
Consistently held that the primary purpose of the speech and debate clause is to, quote, prevent intimidation by the executive and before a possibly hostile judiciary.
Yeah.
So let's call this for what it is. This administration
Brutality.
is criminalizing legislative oversight.
Fascism.
And the Republicans on this committee are helping them to do so.
Gestapo.
Rep. McIver didn't engage in interference. It was ICE that engaged in interference while members of Congress attempted to conduct legitimate oversight of ICE facilities.
They pushed her into somebody and said that she was pushing somebody. Like, no, she was being pushed from behind, and that's what...
American or not, should be deeply...
full of it.
Disturbed and worried about Trump's abuse of power.
Very much so. To touch a woman that way...
They're attacking universities for teaching things they don't like.
Yep.
They're attacking law firms for representing clients that they don't like.
Yep.
This hearing and these charges are an attempt at political intimidation.
Yep.
The three members in Newark were exercising their constitutional duties to check an out-of-control executive branch. This entire situation happened...
What if they were hiding?
Because of the unjust arrest of Mayor Baraka. And not only were the members invited in and given a tour of the facility.
Yep.
This was after they so-called had broken the law. Now, I don't know about y'all, but where I'm from in Texas, I can tell you that I'm not used to having law enforcement see a crime happen right in front of their faces and then say, never mind, we'll just go about our business. In fact, why don't you go ahead and come on in? Come on in. We gonna do this tour because, oops, we did make a mistake because technically by law, we are supposed to allow you in. And wait a minute, while you're here, do y'all want something to drink? We got refreshments for you as well. And then after you conduct this
proper business
oversight, and you actually gave a clean bill of health because you were never there to disrupt, you were always there to do your duty. They came out and they said, everything looks good.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't at that moment that they decided to arrest members. It wasn't the next day. In fact, even as I sit here today, no member has been arrested.
Yeah.
Now, you tell me how many times you can see the robber go in the bank, steal the money, and then they say, well, never mind, we'll think about this later. That is what you call politicizing. And that is what we are here to talk about is wrong.
Yeah, very wrong.
We got a few other issues with ICE right now, so I'm going to get to them in a second. The DOJ, as I said already, has already dropped the charges against the mayor. Look, they're coming after everyone who uses their constitutional rights and duties to speak truth to power.
Yep.
The press, the courts, and now members of Congress.
Yep.
And to be perfectly honest,
nobody's safe.
I had my team do the research.
We all gotta be careful.
Under no other president, Democrat or Republican, can we find an incident where they have tried to arrest members of Congress. This is absolutely absurd.
Come on.
They were out there simply doing their duty. We have never seen ICE act in this way. In fact, it's not less oversight that we need right now, it's more. In fact, I'm going to tell you, actually, I'm not going to tell you. I can show you better than I can tell you. Roll the tape.
Roll the clip. What's going on? What's going on? Show.
Shocking video showing the moment ICE agents smashed a car
Wasn't that in
and
Massachusetts?
forcibly removed a man in New Bedford. 29-year-old Juan Francisco Mendez has no criminal record and was...
Definitely a chaotic scene on Eureka Street Thursday as Worcester police and ICE agents detained a mother and her 16-year-old daughter. That girl
I live in this state. I live in that
taken
state.
Into custody. They have not been identified. Worcester police said officers were dispatched to the area for a report of a federal agent surrounded by about 24 people. When police arrived, they say the teen daughter was...
Agent smashed his window and dragged him out.
They need to chill with that. Like, you gotta wait a second. Like,
recorded the incident.
Do police smash windows that quick? Like, I don't know.
You can't tell me that somebody in this building shouldn't do their jobs because these people are out of control.
Yep.
You're talking about arresting members of Congress? these masked agents are running around
Masked
acting
bandits,
this way.
completely
This
ununiformed,
is not okay.
unidentified.
This shouldn't be about politics. We all should be on the same side saying we will not stand for this type of activity. But instead, they want to pretend like it's members of Congress that are the thugs. It's members of Congress
Let me an
that
ICE
are the
agent,
ones
Scopia
that are
police
stoking
officer.
this kind of violence. Let me tell you what those members of Congress were doing. They were trying to make sure that there would not be another mother that would lose her life in ICE custody as it was Mother's Day weekend. They decided that they just wanted to make sure that people were safe because that is who we are supposed to be in this country.
God's word for real,
and
though.
honestly, for anybody that considers themselves to be a Christian, they should care about treating people
That
in a
cross is
humane
burning
way.
holes to a lot of chests.
And they
Like,
should
I
also
swear to
care
God.
about due process. Everyone in this country, under our Constitution, is due due process.
Habeas corpus.
With that, I will yield.
You know, and I know that Christy Nome, the secretary of something, like, in regards to ICE and all that type of thing, she didn't know what habeas corpus was. She didn't know shit up. She was like, habeas corpus? That's like, you know how she talks. Like, she's like, right for the president to do whatever he wants.
What is habeas corpus?
Habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right
let
to.
me stop you, ma'am.
Like, girl, shut up. We gotta get in tune. That's with Jasmine Crockett. I love her. I hope one day I can meet her. I hope one day I can work with her. If I'm ever in Congress, I'm ever in politics, yo. And that, my dear, was reacting to Representative Jasmine Crockett's opening remarks while ICE runs wild, Trump's DOJ targets Congress. And I hope you have a nice day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.